Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Golic and Wingo on a Thursday morning. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We've started this sort of thing. Look, here's what happens when the young kids go out.
When they go out at night.
They give us content.
They come back with all kinds of stories.
Crazy stories.
The big talent meeting here in Bristol where all the on-air people flew in for a big meeting yesterday. And, of course, after which I went home.
Yes.
And my son, who is 28, went out with a bunch of the people, and they ended up karaokeing last night. So we had thrown it out there, pick an ESPN personality, and what song do you think they should karaoke? And it seems most people were getting a lot of great responses.
At Golic and Wingo, yeah.
Yeah, at Golic and Wingo, at Wingos, or at ESPN Golic. Great responses. It's a shame the ones that keep coming in, though, about Timmy Kirkjian. I kind of feel bad.
They're playing the short card.
Yeah, they are. Little Drummer Boy.
Tiny Dancer. Short People by Randy Newman. That one also came in. This one might be one of the best ones I've seen yet. Dale writes in, Boomer. Hey, Boomer, what?
Yeah.
Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Oh, nice.
Right? That would be good. Although, knowing Boom, he's on concert on stage a lot with Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
So it might be hip to be square.
That's true.
Do you believe in love? And what's the theme from Back to the Future? Out of Time. Back in whatever that song was.
Yeah, whatever that song is.
I'll work on that one. That would be good.
But keep those coming in. There's some really good ones. And also, we're going to start to give away. A lot of people have been mentioning these coffee mugs that you see on our set, a lot of different styles. We're going to start giving them away, and basically it's how are you Golic?
Power of Love, that's what it was.
Power of Love. There you go. And basically it's how do you Golic and Wingo us? Oh. How do you watch us? How do you ingest us? Watching, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Digest, ingest, whatever. I tell you what, one right out of the gate here, D-Mac says, hey, Golic, my wife just walked downstairs. She sent a picture of a one shot of me, just me and basically my face, came downstairs and said, he has beautiful hair.
You do, actually.
I like that. And he also said it's her birthday. Can you wish her happy birthday? Her name is Nisha. So, Nisha, happy birthday.
You do have, for middle-aged white guy hair, you do have hair to crave. I mean, the inventory is still very strong.
They're up there as far as possibly winning a mug. So, how are
the mug is good, by the way. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, it is.
And it's deceptively big.
Yeah.
You think, you can't fit like a giant whatever in there.
You can.
It's
bigger than you would think.
You pour a lot of liquid in that thing.
Yeah.
So keep those coming at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. At Golic and Wingo, and let us know the songs that you think somebody here at ESPN would be great at karaokeing at.
What was the one for Adam Schefter?
Oh,
Call Me Maybe?
Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe.
That's great.
There it is. And you can, I've seen Adam do it with two phones at one time. He's got one on, he's texting here, that we call that hashtag Scheftering.
That's awesome.
So that's what Adam is doing in a big, big way. All right, lots to get to, and why don't we begin this hour with...
It's time for... Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, and we start off the top with the NBA, and Paul George scored only 12 points and shot only 3 of 14 from the floor, but it was enough as the Thunder won his first game back to Indiana thanks to a strong game from the supporting cast.
Yeah, he was booed. He was booed when he was introduced. He was booed every time he touched the ball,
that,
which
though,
is
right?
fine. He's the one who said, I'm leaving this team, so you may want to get rid of me, and they did. But, boy, I tell you, he and Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony, the three of them were 10 of 45. They shot just 22%. So it was Steven Adams who led the way, 23 points, 13 rebounds. So they got the win. That's the most important thing. George did play well defensively. We've had a lot of talk about Victor Oladipo, how well he's played offensively in the absence of Paul George. But when Paul George was guarding Oladipo was just 1 for 7 with 2 turnovers. So he did well on the defensive end.
Yeah, George, Russell Westbrook, and Carmelo just scored 34 points, which is very interesting. And the Oklahoma City reunion tour or coming back tour continues Saturday when they go to New York to play the Knicks. And obviously Carmelo Anthony will be big part of that reunion game. We continue.
Off the top.
Houston, you do not have a problem. The Rockets used a 25-0 run, their largest since November 1997 per the Elias Sports Bureau, to win their 11th straight game since Chris Paul returned from injury.
It's been what a game for them last night. Hornets, they outscored the Hornets by 39 points on three-pointers. They were 17 of 45, and the Hornets were just 4 of 21. What's been interesting is how this team has done with just one of those two on the court. Not together, but with just Harden on the court. They've been better offensively, efficiency-wise, and defensively, and net efficiency. And with Paul, just Chris Paul, the exact same thing. So, that what a great thing to have is that you can go on individually and still have this team perform better. Is pretty impressive. And you really have to start to wonder, with the way the Celtics have consistently been winning, and now what the Rockets are doing, are they legitimate threats to the two teams we're handing it to in the Cavaliers and Golden State to make it back for another final?
Right. Look, we're a long way from that. We get that. But an interesting takeaway from the start of this season is that it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion anymore. Right? It doesn't feel like, hey, we'll just play this thing out, and for the fourth straight year, we'll have the Cavs and the Warriors meet in the finals. It feels differently. Now, look, a million things could change, and injuries are going to be a big part of that going forward. But you have the Celtics with Kyrie doing unbelievable things. Gordon Hayward now has the boot off. Is it possible that he might be able to come back toward the end of the season and into the playoffs and contribute in some way, shape, or form? And is it possible that Houston, with this mixture that they've found, could be not only good enough but big enough to maybe push around Golden State a little bit in the Western Conference, who've already had many more losses at this point of the year than they did a year ago? It just doesn't seem like we're rubber stamping anything to the finals anymore.
Which I think is good. And
I totally agree.
Yeah, and by the way, basketball already in a great place, for especially coming off of last year, where we really knew the two teams that were going to be there, and they got there. So if there's a little bit of intrigue this year, I'm sure that can only help.
And again, long way to go, but it just feels like it's a different sort of set of circumstances early in the NBA season. Most people agree the NBA season really doesn't kick off until Christmas Day and beyond. We get that. It just seems like the temperature of the league is a little different than it has been the last couple of years. Right. Staying in the NBA.
Off the top.
Lonzo Ball is going to face LeBron James for the first time in his professional career this evening when the Lakers visit the Cavs. And although Lonzo struggled with his shot, Ball's averaging more rebounds, assists, and blocks per game than James did during his rookie season.
Yeah, the probably as far as rebounds per game, probably about a rebound and a half, assists per game, probably about 1 assist per game, but scoring we know is a little bit different. But Lonzo Ball has been, from vision of court and from the neck up as advertised coming into the NBA, and how players, his teammates certainly love him because he knows how he dishes the ball to him extremely well. And it brings up that interest, and we're a ways away from it next offseason when there's a lot of people, I'm not one of them, that think that LeBron's going to go to the Lakers, that the Lakers still need to do some movement there to where they can have two max salaries, one being the possibility of Paul George, one of the reasons he's not in Indiana anymore, and the other possibly being LeBron James. We'll see. But LeBron had a lot of nice things to say about Lonzo Ball in the beginning of his career, as my son brought up, and I think correctly so, that a lot of times that LeBron will say nice things about those that don't really pose a threat.
Haven't
to
got
him.
there yet.
Haven't got there because it was, as my son brought up, that he was really nice about talking about Steph Curry. All of a sudden, Steph Curry started with the MVP stuff, and maybe it wasn't the love wasn't thrown as much going out there.
Well, it's interesting, too, because, Lonzo's doing better in some categories than LeBron was in his rookie year. But what LeBron is doing this year, look, I think you expect it because of what he's done consistently over time. But the numbers he's putting up in his 15th year in the he's playing better year 15 than in any of the years at this point statistically than he won the MVP.
Yeah.
Look, we talked about this a little bit last week. Do you compare what Brady's doing at 40, although he's slipped up a little bit the last couple of games, to what LeBron is doing? It's an amazing thing, and I get it. It's not a 15-year career like if you went at least 1 year in college, one and done. He went straight from high school. But the wear and tear on your body, going up and down the floor, and as many minutes as LeBron plays, it's It's an impressive thing, and I think it goes underappreciated because, it's LeBron.
You expect it.
Exactly.
You expect that from LeBron. You expect it from Michael Jordan. You expect it from Tom Brady, from Aaron Rodgers to save the team and all that. The Cavs have won 15 out of the last 16, and in that time, James has averaged 27, 9, and 9, so it's been going pretty well.
15 years in. I mean, it's ridiculous. Right now, if you could name the MVP, who's your front runner? Would it be LeBron or would it be James Harden?
I think those are your front runners.
Right.
Well, Antetokounmpo isn't he still leading the league, right, in scoring? I believe he's so he.
No, it's Harden still leading the league, but
is it Harden? I'm sorry. Okay.
Antetokounmpo does everything, though. I mean,
he does do everything. He's second. Antetokounmpo's second. Okay, his name is going to be up and around there for years to come. That dude is truly a freak.
No question. And we finish up
off the top
with the hard sell on the Week 15 Thursday Night Football game. It's Peyton Manning's former teams, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo! As the Broncos square off tonight in Indy against the Colts. Listen, they've already both been eliminated from playoff contention. But you know what? Here's a little tidbit. This is the last Thursday night game of the season.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
And so Color Rush, and the Color Rush tonight, the Colts will be in all blue, and Denver will be in all orange, looking like the creamsicles like the Tampa Bay Bucks do every now and then. And here's your percentages. We always do the FBI, Football Power Index percentages on things. Well, here's percentages that you probably don't really want to hear. If you're a Colt fan, you have a 92% chance of getting a top 5 pick. And if you're the Broncos, you have a 93% chance of getting a top 10 pick. Maybe you do want to hear that at this point. Since your season is lost, maybe you obviously want as high as pick as you can possibly get.
Go for the best and possible draft pick you can get. And by the way, the other thing, we all talked about the snow game last week. You and I loved it.
Yep.
Other people had different opinions. I love watching those guys running around in the snow. Someone who might not have liked it so much was Adam Vinatieri.
Right.
Missed a field goal, and he dropped below 90% on the year. Now, he has a clause in his contract that says if he kicks 90% of his field goals, he'll make an extra $500,000.
Yes, he will.
Which, look, I get it. He's a professional footballer. He's been around for a long time, and he's made a ton of money.
500,000 is 500,000.
That's exactly right. $5,000 is $5,000.
500 grand.
500 grand. I just shorted him $545,000. Again, not really a morning person.
No.
So for him to get back over 90% on the year, he's going to have to make 5 straight field goals.
His next 5. So I don't know if he'll get 5 chances tonight, but if he makes his next 5, goes 5 for 5, he's back at that 90%, and that's when you grab the hammy.
Yeah, and say, can't do it anymore. I got a bad infected toenail on my kicking foot. Can't quite swing the leg with the authority I'd like to. He is amazing, though, the fact that he's still out there and doing it. And look, for him, 2 of those games are at home in the Dome, climate controlled, so maybe that'll certainly help him out. So we'll see what happens. And let's make Adam Vinatieri, by the way, our player with style.
Okay.
Brought to you by JCPenney. Take the JCPenney Holiday Challenge and find surprising gifts at surprising prices. Get everything on your list for less than you think at JCPenney. So again, this is the last Thursday night game. And, there's been so much debate about the Thursday night game.
Right.
And the next Thursday night game, I believe, will be the Hall of Fame game.
Right, that's right.
In Canton, Ohio, which is always a great trip. If you're a football fan, get out there once in your life because it is really a fun thing. And we'll talk about this, nonstop, what the Thursday night football game means. But again, your point has always been it's once a year, except for maybe one of the 2 teams that plays on Thanksgiving anyway, which would be the Lions and the Cowboys.
Right. And we do start to get Saturday games,
right? We got a couple of them Saturday.
We have Kansas City and the Chargers.
Yep, a huge game. That's
Saturday.
In prime time.
And then in the playoffs, we get some Saturdays as well. So you still love that. You still love those days because you may sit there and say you don't like them on those days, and all of a sudden when you don't have them anymore on those days,
what am I watching?
Yeah,
what am I watching?
You're a little hungry for it, aren't you?
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out going forward. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us, including Ron Rivera in a little bit, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Big game for the Carolina Panthers coming up this Sunday as they welcome in the Green Bay Packers. But, Mike, we talked about it earlier on the show, and there was a great article on Sports Illustrated and the MMQB site. Basically, the researchers at the Brain Institute in Boston believe that they might be able to have a test within the next 5 years that can determine in a person alive whether or not they have CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is damage to the brain that causes all kinds of issues. And it's been talked about a lot with football players, but it's also an issue in hockey players and in soccer. Basically, in any contact sport where there are collisions, CTE is going to be there. And what they did, they asked a lot of current players if there was a test
Right.
that you could take right now, because the only way you can detect CTE right now is post-mortem, in other words, after you die. If there was a test right now that you could take to determine whether or not, as a current football player, you had CTE, would you take it? And among the players they asked Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the moment of the Washington Redskins. We'll see where he goes in the offseasons. They asked a linebacker, Tahir Whitehead, of the Lions. They asked a center, Ryan Khalil, of the Panthers, Chris Long of the Eagles, the defensive end, and they gave a bunch, as well as Deion Jordan and Artie Burns, the cornerback for the Steelers, and they gave a bunch of different answers. But it seemed like the majority of them said, I would like to know whether or not I had it. And then you brought up an interesting point about your take on the situation here.
Yeah, my initial thought when I first heard, would you take it? And again, we're talking about if you're already in the pros. Certainly, this test can be used for a lot of great research, which I'll get into. My first initial thought, okay, if I'm in the NFL right now and I could have a test that could tell me if I have CTE, my initial thought was, is there a cure for it? And the answer is no.
At this point, there is
no.
no.
So I would say, then why do I want to know I have something that can't be cured when all it would be is on my mind all the time? And that's one of the things Chris Long, who is a very thoughtful guy about a lot of these things and doing, again, a lot of great things off the field as well. He said it would be hard not to change you if you knew. He said it would be in the back of your head. And the anxiety would be there thinking about the fact that you have it. Say you didn't have CTE and then you were told you did. That could cause mental and emotional problems, in knowing that all of a sudden. So that would be my thought. I said, initially that was my thought of, okay, you tell me if I have it or don't, and if I have it and there's no cure for it, now what did that do for me? Yeah. All it did was go, oh, my God, now I have this. Now, if you see what's coming down the road, if you see what's happened to other people, is that going to happen to me? Is it? I don't know. Listen, I'm 54 or 55, played 9 years in the league, in college and high school and little league, and I'm fine right now. Who knows if I took the test tomorrow and I had it, but I'm fine. I have no issues at all. So I started thinking about that and then saying, you know what? I think it would be good. And Michael Bennett kind of touched on that, basically saying he said players should be required to take the test. And I don't know if it's for the same reasons where I'm going to bring up, but I think as far as research is concerned, I think it would be good to know. But one thing that has to come with it, because we are still in the finding out phase of a lot of things, of what are some of the other things that are involved or could be involved in this, from steroid take to opioids to drugs to recreational drugs. That's the one thing I think for players to get a true research of this is to make sure you give an honest history of yourself.
Right.
But
there are other people that have not done those things and they still had major issues.
No.
Yeah.
I know. I understand that, but that's all part of research. It's getting all the information. You could get someone that says, I rarely, if ever, take painkillers. I don't drink. I've never done steroids, and I don't do drugs. You can get someone, if they're honest, to say, man, I take painkillers anytime I can to get back on the field. Yes, I've done steroids. I do drink. So you got to put that all in there as part of the research. I guess that's my point. I would say now, yes, I would do it because I think it would be great for the research to get everybody's history of it. Do you have it now? Do you not? If you do, what's your history? Even if you don't, what's your history? What are some factors or some signs that you may? And the other thing is the reason I think I would get it now is, what if I got it while I was playing and I was told you have it, but it's stage 1? From what I understand, there's 4 stages of CTE. So then you're like, okay, this is stage 1. I have a choice. You have a choice anyway. But now if there's the concrete evidence of you have it and it's stage 1, do you retire? Do you get out and you say, you know what, I'm not going to let this manifest itself anymore? Or do you say, well, I have stage 1, I'm still going to keep playing? It can give you those options. So while I initially would have said, I don't want to know because there's no cure, I've come around on that after that initial thought and say, I think it would be good. The more we know, the more research we can have, and the better, hopefully, we can treat this, and or could we dare say find a cure for this, which obviously is something you hope for, but I have no clue about that.
Well, look, there's a couple of things to get into there. One, the more research you can find out about it leads to a cure. And one of the most horrible diseases out there is Huntington's disease, which is basically people describe it in a really horrible way as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and motor neuron disease rolled into one. They've done a lot of research to test people, and they're now maybe experimenting with an experimental drug that may prevent it. So the idea is if you can diagnose it, that leads maybe down the road to hopefully finding some sort of cure for this thing. But I guess at the end of the day, for a player like yourself, because you are 55 years old now, you have a different perspective than you did when you were 29.
That's exactly right.
Can you now could you now realistically go back into 29-year-old mode and what you thought now as opposed to what you thought then with the information? Is that even possible?
What changes is information. You said the key word there. Because when you're playing sports, when you're playing football, and I can only speak as a football player, but I think most professional athletes, the business I was in for a long time, you feel invincible.
Right.
That won't happen to me. Get your knee blown out, get your ankle broken, get something happens to you off the field. Oh, that's horrible, but it won't happen to me. Now what happens if you are hit with you have it. You have been diagnosed. You have CTE. Now it has happened to you. So you have that information. Where's that invincibility now? Do you still feel that way? Are you like,
but you kind of need to be on this on the field.
You're like, so now you start thinking, and that's the thing, because we don't know, we'd be starting, this would be brand new. You want to talk about, still in the infancy of it. Now we're finding out about the living people and their histories and how it all can come together for people way smarter than us to try and figure this thing out. But now what do you do with that information? Now you know you're not invincible. You know you can get hurt, but now you've been diagnosed with this, and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
There are some players that would sit there and that would say, oh, I'm just going to keep playing. And I'm sure there would be others because
many of the players they talked to said they would keep playing.
We see guys that have retired and don't know, but have walked away from the game. More guys have retired now. So it's like anything else. The more information you have. So I think this would be a good thing, and that's why I would do it, to help with the information grab to try and get a better outcome.
Look, it's a really interesting question that they posed on SA.com and getting these people involved and getting these players involved. The bottom line is if you're five years away from maybe diagnosing it, maybe then you're only 5 years away from a cure. And that's the thing that goes forward, and we'll see how that research continues. But again, it's like that old slogan, the more you know.
Yeah.
And it seems like if we can get a handle on how to diagnose it, then maybe you get a better handle on how to treat it and potentially, hopefully down the road, cure it.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You know who doesn't care at all about the Packers' playoff chances?
Who?
That would be Ron Rivera, the head
he's
coach
worried about his own.
of the Carolina Panthers, and he joins us now on Golic and Wingo. Ron, thanks for being with us. I always appreciate your time. So Aaron Rodgers coming back this week. What did that do, if anything, to how you're going to game plan this Green Bay Packers offense?
It didn't do anything, guys. I mean, in all honesty, a few weeks ago when we first heard that he was throwing the balls on the sidelines, I think it was before the Pittsburgh game, maybe even before that, the anticipation was that he was coming back. We knew that their whole goal was to try and keep themselves in playoff position. They've done that. So it doesn't surprise me, and we weren't surprised, and we felt we should just go ahead and game plan for what they do, the things that they've done in the past with Aaron, and then react from there. So our whole attitude and our whole outlook coming up against Green Bay was we expected to play against Aaron Rodgers.
Ron, a lot of times, rather than scouting the team you're going to play, self-scouting a lot of times can take care of a lot of issues for you. And other than getting some healthy players back, what has been the biggest difference on the field for you guys in winning 5 of your last 6 games?
Well, I think it's exactly that. We have gotten some healthy guys back, but I do think we're playing better. And I heard your comment about, at the end of the year, it's how you're playing. And that's one of the things that we wanted to do, was be trending up once we got into December to give ourselves an opportunity to get into the playoffs. I think a big part of it, too, is, our quarterback, again, he didn't have a normal off season. He had the surgery. He didn't have OTAs and minicamp. He had a little bit of a setback during training camp. He didn't have the type of training camp you would like to. Couple that with some of the new players you have around him. Couple that with the trade we made in the middle of the year, and I think we've really started to find our footing as a football team, which I think is very important, especially this time of the year.
Ron Rivera, Panthers head coach, joins us on Golic and Wingo. And Ron, we had Thomas Davis on NFL Live yesterday, and he talked a little bit about the confidence this team has, knowing that they have gone into New England and beaten the Patriots, and then had a home game against one of the hottest teams in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings, and really pushed them around. I know it was a close game down the stretch, but really dominated that team up front, and then Cam makes the super play with that 62-yard run to set up the game-winning touchdown by Jonathan Stewart. Where is the confidence level of your team heading into this matchup?
I think it's solid. I think it's where it needs to be, especially this time of year. I think the guys feel good about the things that we've accomplished and we've done so far. But, again, this really is a league about what have you done for me lately. So, all that can disappear if you don't come out and play well, especially against another good football team led by a very good quarterback.
How is, we talk about Greg Olsen coming back. He comes back and nicked again, sits out. Such a great player. Ed Dixon, quite honestly, has done a nice job sitting in at times for
Tremendous.
him. No doubt about that. But how Greg obviously seems to be a week-to-week guy. Where is he now?
I think he's taken another big step. I think last week playing the entire game really built confidence. The tough thing about it was he was slated to come back against New York. That was a turf field. That was that new turf or whatever it's called. And then the next game against New Orleans was on that turf. And so after what happened with New York, we opted not to play him against New Orleans to give him a chance to get to Minnesota on the grass. He came out of that game and he had a lot of confidence, came out of practice yesterday and looked like the old Greg. He ran some really good routes yesterday, seemed to move around, cut, and pivot off of that foot with really no thought about it. So I think his confidence is back to where it needs to be in terms of being healthy again.
Ron Rivera with us on Golic and Wingo, and you mentioned Cam and the things he's been able to do. We talked about that 62-yard run. He's only averaging about 210 yards passing per game, the lowest of his career, but his rushing yards are up to over 45, which would be the second most in a season. So as you're looking at Cam and the way he's going to lead this offense, is it more about his running now, or is it more about trying to get that passing game going?
I think it's more about keeping the balance more than anything else. In some games when he's had to throw the ball for over 200 yards, he has, and the result has been a victory for us. Other times when he's needed to run the ball, he's ran it for us and resulted in the victory, especially down the stretch so far. I think the one thing about it, too, is not just his running, but us running as a football team. If you can control the clock, if you can keep the other offenses off the field, it helps your defense and it helps your team as a whole. So I think that's probably one of the more important things is really, when we need him to do what he does, he's got to come through for us, whether it is throwing the ball, whether it is running. But right now, him running the ball has helped us, and it's been very effective.
Yeah, to that point, since his rookie year, he's the only player in the NFL with at least 5 rushing touchdowns every season. Not the only quarterback,
right?
The only player that has at least 5 rushing touchdowns every season since 2011.
Again, we're talking to Ron Rivera, head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He was a second-rounder back in '84. The Bears won that Super Bowl in '85, NFL Coach of the Year in 2013. And 2015, off the beaten path on one. We saw that game in Buffalo with the snow. How were you like that? Were you a I don't mind playing in the snow kind of a guy?
Yeah, that's exactly, because you had no choice. Being in Chicago, you were get snow, ice, sleet, hail, whatever. You had to play, or fog for that matter. You were
the fog ball, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep, you remember that.
Yeah.
Thanks, he says.
It was a lot of fun. It really was. It's one of those things that you dream about as a kid, that someday you're going to play in a whole bunch of snow or rain or in a muddy field. And I saw that. It was kind of cool. And it's funny because I was able to text back and forth with some of the guys I know up in Buffalo, obviously, and we laughed about what they went through. It's easy to when you win for them, so it was kind of cool.
Ron, we know you got a big game to get ready for, so we won't keep you too long. But I want to ask you about Cam Newton and his post-game attire. I mean, he had the brimless sort of fez, for lack of a better term, this past weekend. And Tim Hasselbeck has come up with a saying. He doesn't think what Cam is wearing is an outfit. He thinks every week it seems to be a costume. How much do you guys wait to see what Cam Newton is going to wear in those post-game press conferences?
Well, we've gotten to the point where we find the humor in it. The thing is, he's just making a statement on his own. He wants to be his own guy. And I think that's part of who he is, and so we're, to me, there's really no harm in it. I'm not quite sure why, some people get all disappointed or upset about it, because again, he's just kind of being his own guy, making his own statement, and that's off the field, and then that to me, really, I'm not concerned about. It's not anything he's doing on the field. I don't think it hurts anybody in the locker room unless somebody takes offense to the way he dresses. As a statement, and I just don't get it. But it's like a friend says to me, we've made the interesting important.
And oh, by the way, he looks better in it than we would look in it. There's no doubt about that. Ron, that was kind of a fun question. I'm going to ask you a serious one. I gave kind of when you were in the league, we're in the league basically the same time. We're the same age. If what we are reading is true in a few years, and they do come out with a CTE test for people that are living, because right now it can only be an autopsy. Would that be something? Would you get that test?
No, because you know what's interesting is there's been a lot of guys that played before us that lived well into their 70s and 80s. I mean, they had for the most part good lives, and at the end they seem to have the natural thing happen. So I'm not overly concerned with it. I mean, right now I think. I'm still pretty good with my faculties and everything. Maybe if I start having some issues, maybe I would. But right now, I don't think so, because again, you go back and you think about all those guys that have lived into the 70s and 80s, and one of the guys that I always kind of look towards a lot of things is Coach Ditka. I mean, Mike Ditka played in the league, and I know he's off the chain sometimes, but for the most part, Coach is cool. I mean, it's always good to see Coach Ditka.
Well, listen, Ron, we appreciate the time, and I know you got a busy game coming up this weekend, a few days to prepare, so we appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you, and, you love sports. We know that. You watch them all the time. You do all this stuff, but I think you love this stuff even more. You love talking about George Clooney and the things that went on there, but this might be your actual thing that you love more than anything else. Folks, it's time for...
Here's your news of the weird with Golic and Wingo.
Traverse City, Michigan.
All right.
A man.
Fine city, by the way.
Yeah. Man got what we would do. Man lives alone. Mm-hmm. Got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom.
It happens.
And by doing so, determined that his house was broken into and called the police.
How did he determine this?
Because this man who lives alone always leaves the toilet seat up.
Okay.
And when he went to get up to go to the bathroom,
it was down.
The toilet seat was down.
And
he lives alone.
Okay.
Called the police. Sure enough, they caught a dude in his garage.
Really?
Who was hammered, and I guess went to the bathroom and put the seat down and stole a bunch of his prescription drugs. But the guy was passed out in his garage. So this dude had no idea anybody had been in his house.
Right.
Got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, walked into the bathroom, saw his toilet seat down, went, something's not right, called the police. The police came over and found an intruder in his garage.
So this would be toilet tales, I guess.
Well, there you go.
This. But, the guy was, the intruder, I guess, was not only breaking and entering, but it was also rude. Because
very rude.
You gotta make
guy
sure
lives alone.
Leave that
keep
the
it
way.
up.
Leave that the way you found it. Right.
Right. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
He gave it away. Dude was He tells that the intruder appeared to be intoxicated and had taken prescription drugs from the home. The man and the resident don't know each other. Charges will be pursued.
Okay.
How about that, though?
Well, so you don't need a nanny cam. You don't need, a whole system.
The toilet seat giveaway.
Toilet seat giveaway. So, that's the thing. Check. And if you have that, you'll save yourself thousands.
That's amazing, though, to walk
security.
in and see it's down. But if you do live alone, nobody's. You got to
the routine.
You start to think, did I put it down? But if you never did, but you go all the way to call the cops.
Yeah.
And then there's an intruder in your garage. It's awesome.
How bad would that have been if that wasn't there? He's like, yeah, I don't know why I called you. But good for him. They figured it out. All right, when we come back, a quarterback conversation still on the way about did we all get it wrong in 2015. But when we come back, one of the top 50 greatest players in the history of the NBA will join us in studio next to talk about what's going on in the NBA and is it really less likely that we'll have the Cavs and Warriors Part 4 in the finals. Stay with us, Golic.
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Lots to get to. The tweets keep coming in at Golic and Wingo on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Karaoke night. What ESPN personality and what song would you like to hear him sing based on Junior's sort of foray last night with some friends?
Yeah, we had the ESPN, again, air quotes, talent meeting yesterday, of which a guy sitting in our studio came in town for because he's not only ESPN talent, but was pretty talented on the basketball
He's just
court
talent
as well, yeah. And that would be one Scottie Pippen joining us. So, because I wanted to ask you, my son was out last night with a bunch of ESPN people. They ended up karaokeing. So we're asking people out there at Golic and Wingo, if you pick an ESPN or ESPN personality, what song would you have them karaoke? You ever go karaoke? You a karaoke guy at all?
No.
No?
I like watching, but I'm not good on the microphone.
You
singing.
never were partaking at karaoke night, huh?
You know, maybe after a few cocktails.
Yeah, well, that's normally how it is. Isn't that
pretty much the
norm?
recipe.
Yeah. Who goes up there without having a few cocktails? That's what I want to know.
I don't want to know that guy.
No, I don't either.
By the way, as you listen to Scottie talk, one of the 50 greatest players in the history of the NBA and a Hall of Famer back in 2010, when you say I'm not really good with a microphone, brother, if you didn't play, you could have been the greatest FM DJ of all time.
Exactly right.
You listen to those dulcet tones come through the mic, and I'm like, man, I get it. You were a good NBA player. I think you might have missed your calling. The smooth tones are almost as good as anything you did on the court.
You know, that's one of the other things we would ask, like, entertainers when we would have them on. Because entertainers, I've always said, entertainers wanted to be athletes, and athletes wanted to be entertainers. If you could have been, like, one of the 50 greatest at anything else other than basketball like you are, what were outside of the world of sports, what would it have been?
Wow. Well, I like entertainment, so I would probably say a singer.
See, that's where I would go. That's what I would want to do.
You want to be Gordon Lightfoot, though.
I just want to be able to stand up and sing and have people go, "Wow, is he a great singer?"
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
you just want to dance with somebody.
Well, there you
go. So again. 2 minutes into the segment, we're glad we're completely off track with Scottie
Absolutely
Pippen,
right.
Who's probably in here to give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts, specifically with basketball. We'll see if we can get him to do a little Barry White later if he wants to be a singer with those
That's
pipes.
where he would go, yeah.
That would work out very well. It worked out well, I guess, for the Oklahoma City Thunder last night in the sense that they got the win and Paul George's return. But this is a team, Scottie, that just has not figured out how these three guys, Paul George, Carmelo, and Russell Westbrook, can work together. And we've had a bunch of people say they don't think it's going to work. Do you think they can eventually find a way to get the basketball moving for these guys to do what they do?
Well, I've watched them play against Golden State, and I felt like that was one of their better games. But since that point, they have fell off. But, I think they will get it together. I feel like that, they're one of those teams that they're going to need more games. When you put three players together who have been stars on their team, who has demanded the ball on several occasions down the court, and now it's only one ball and three of those stars, it's very difficult. And I think Russell Westbrook is the one that's probably dealing with this in a situation where he feels the most uncomfortable, because we watched him last year and the performance that he put on night in and night out, whether he was pounding the ball or not, he brought a different type of tenacity to that team. They've lost that little bit of edge because Russ, I think, has pulled back a little bit, and he's trying to get those other guys involved a little bit. So I just think it's going to take some time. But we all know that Russell Westbrook can turn it up another notch if things start to go haywire. So I just hope that they can continue, and hopefully by All-Star break that this team can turn it around.
Well, it's interesting because, he was so aggressive last year, and we saw the average the triple-double, and it was the couple of years or the few years before that of a lot of people think is why Durant's not there anymore, because why is Russell shooting so much? Give the ball to Durant. Let him shoot more. But as we find out, when Russell is aggressive, he's pretty darn good. But now when you have those other stars, that's why there are so many people that think this is a one-and-done thing with Oklahoma City, because those other guys really can't make a living there the way they're used to, because it seems like, from you're saying, you correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to fall mostly on Russell. Since he touches the ball the most, he's the one that's going to have to defer the most.
Yeah, it is. And he's at a crossroad right now because, as you said, KD left a year ago because he didn't want to play with him, and we don't know what those reasons are, but we seem to think that it was because he's not a very passive guy on the basketball court. So he has to try to win these guys over, Paul George, Carmelo, and try to convince them that he's a team player, he's a willing passer, and that's what he's been dealing with these last few months into the season. So I think they're going to get better. I think it's too much talent right there for it not to jail. And I think in time we will see a different OKC team.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, not one prone to making, not shy about expressing his opinions, for lack of a better term, said it might be time to change the coach. So where are you on how Billy Donovan is managing these three guys?
I'm a big fan of Billy Donovan, so I don't want to go in that direction. I think the talent is truly there. I think it's going to be a decision truly that they're going to have to make if they want to try to salvage something out of this season. But I think they're in a great position. You can't start to panic right now. You're not going to be better than OKC. Let's just look at it that way. But if you can play well enough to compete with them.
Not going to be better than Golden State, you mean?
Right.
Than Golden State, okay.
Excuse me.
Right,
yeah.
no problem.
They're not going to be better than Golden State. So if you can just compete and continue to play at a high level, I think that's what they want to get out of this season. I don't think they put this team together thinking that they were going to be able to win a championship. I don't even feel that they can go that deep in the playoff because of the way that they've been playing. They have yet to show that they're one of the top 5 teams in the league.
Well, let's talk about a team that has shown that, and can they challenge a team like Golden State? And that's the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul coming back, and they're on a streak. They seem to do unbelievably well when only one of them's on the court, not both at the same time. But are they a legitimate threat to Golden State in the West?
I think they are. I watched them last night, and I've had my thoughts about whether or not Chris Paul and Harden can play together, and I see what Chris Paul brings to the table. A very unique player, a guy that demands respect from his teammates. And his leadership is, it's just unprecedented. What he brings to a basketball team and his impact so fast. I mean, this is a guy that hasn't even been on the court all season, but I can guarantee you he's been on the sideline in every practice and in every game, and his leadership is felt. So when he hit the court, things are in order, and that's what he's given this Houston Rockets team. And they do have an opportunity to challenge a team like Golden State. Staying healthy and continuing to get better, that's what I'm seeing out of this Houston Rockets team. They're very excited to play with each other, and when you see that, you feel like that is something special in that organization. And this Houston Rockets team, the general manager built this team to compete with Golden State. So we'll see how it pans out.
Scottie Pippen with us here on Golic and Wingo. Why do you think it's working so much better for Houston than it is with a new, like you said, a new person with Chris Paul there, as opposed to the chemistry issues that Oklahoma City is having? Because it seems like one influx of new talent is working well, as we just talked about, 11 straight wins when Chris Paul is on the floor, as opposed to the struggles in Oklahoma City.
Well, I think you just said it. It's Chris Paul. His style of play as a point guard compared to Russell Westbrook. 2 different styles. Chris Paul demands the basketball for different reasons than Russ. You watch how Russ play. He gets the ball. He pushes it. It's more to see how he can break the defense down. Where Chris Paul he's more of a floor general. He's orchestrating. He's putting guys in position, and then he attacks. So they're 2 different players. Chris Paul wants to control the tempo. He wants to control the scoring. And when you got a guy that's doing that, you're going to be in a lot of basketball games. You're not going to be getting blown out. You're going to execute, and you're going to play the right way. And on the other hand, Russ don't have what Chris Paul has. He doesn't have that calmness about his game. He doesn't have the same type of leadership out on the basketball court where he demands excellence from his teammates. You watch Chris Paul's team, and those guys never take bad shots. If they're not open, they're looking to get the ball back in Chris' hands. Whereas when you watch how Russ play, he pounds the ball a lot. And he doesn't give guys an opportunity to score like a Chris Paul. And that's why you see one team is playing well and you see one team that's struggling, because it's hard for Russ to change what he did last season when he was an MVP by playing that way.
Russ and calm, I don't think we'll ever be in a sentence together.
Yeah.
I don't
Frenetic,
think
maybe.
Yeah, this is Scottie Pippen joining us in studio here, 2010 Hall of Fame class, 7-time NBA All-Star, 6-time NBA champ. Looking at Golden State, still the cream of the crop in that conference, it would seem in most people's eyes, even though Houston has the record right now. Last year we saw Durant have the knee injury. Not a history of it, so he heals up, comes back, and MVP in the finals and such. Steph Curry, though, missing time with ankles that he's had ankle issues with. So how much do you worry about somebody who's had issues with something, has it again, missing some significant time, and going forward and having that reoccur?
Well, being a player that's played in a lot of postseason and dealing with ankle problems throughout my career, those things happen. When you play a lot of games, 82-game season, 10 or so preseason games, and now you go into the playoffs, and your season is extended so much, and then before you know it, you're back playing another season. So that's what happens to championship teams. They break down physically, and that's when the other teams are able to sneak in and push them out. So that's where you question whether or not a team can stay on a run, as we did in the 90s, is can you stay healthy?
Scottie Pippen with us, ESPN NBA analyst, and that's really shorting his list of accomplishments.
Yes, I'd say.
We put it that way. But, look, we're going all access tomorrow on ESPN's platforms in advance of the Sixers game against Oklahoma City. Where are you in the process and what Joel Embiid has brought to this league and what he can be when it's all said and done?
Man, I love the process.
Right? You got to trust it now, baby.
I love his demeanor, his personality, and on the basketball court, he's just a superb player. Very high IQ, shooting the basketball from behind the three-point line, has the ability to, drive from 24 feet out and still finish at the rim. He's just a very skilled big man, and, he has a great personality for it.
Yeah, you see those big guys.
Personality is there, by the way.
A lot of times, as you know, those big guys can be a little introverted. Shaq certainly wasn't, and this guy certainly seems to be going down that road. We had a question along the lines of the 76ers a couple of days ago. If you had the choice right now, could only take one for your team, would you take Porzingis from the Knicks or Ben Simmons from the 76ers?
Man.
And we can see there's probably no wrong answer.
You can't
no
lose.
Wrong answer.
Right, you can't, but we're still making you pick.
Exactly right.
I'm going to take Porzingis.
You are?
Yeah, I like the size, the skills. Not a knock against Ben.
No, not at all.
He's just hasn't developed quite the way that I thought he would, especially shooting the basketball. Very skilled player, ambidextrous, finished well, great passer, but Porzingis is a very special player, as we know. 7-footer, can handle the ball, can shoot the three, can defend, can rebound. He's a special player, and I think in the next couple of years, as he get more physically developed, we're going to see a difference.
It's interesting because Barkley yesterday said he would take Porzingis as well, and the difference was Ben coming along and his shooting still has a little ways to go. Certainly has the other aspects of it down, as well, but he would take Porzingis.
Well, the versatility you get with Porzingis is what's so interesting.
But they're both freaks, a 6'10" point guard and a 7'3" freak.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We were talking about the last point guard that big was probably Magic, although you could make the case that now, specifically, and at times over the past few years, LeBron has really played the point at 6'9". And we were talking about this before we got on the air, as Golic and Wingo was presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. LeBron, 15 years in, you said something that I thought you thought this is the best he's ever played.
He's superb, man. I mean, 15 years in the league, most guys are thinking, where am I going to be in the next couple of years when I retire? Or this guy is not even looking at retirement. I mean, he's playing superb. He's efficient. That's what I say about LeBron. Just efficient. Never misses games. Just the guy that, very reliable. And to see him still doing this and still have the excitement, the tenacity to come out and perform every night in front of the fans, he's just a superb player.
One of the things you see players who play that long as they get older, when you have to kind of self-notice things may be diminishing, you have to compensate by doing something else. Is he there yet? Is he doing any of that, or is he still doing what he's been doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
I feel like he's still doing what he was doing when he first came in the league. LeBron has mastered the game of basketball to the point where he's able to do things on his own, but he's also able to pull back and utilize his teammates to keep him there. And he's just had a superb career in terms of a guy that's very durable. And to see him still doing this 15th season, you wonder how long can this go on?
And with all the postseasons he's been in, it's like he's played an extra full season of games on those legs. So like we asked, can Houston challenge Golden State? How about the Celtics? Let's give them a little love. And Gordon Hayward now out of the walking boot, unbelievably, they talk about as the possibility of him playing in April, which would be unreal. But even without him, what they're doing, do you see them as a legitimate threat to the Cavaliers?
No. I'm going to be honest.
Really?
I like what the Celtics have created. I like the culture that they've been able to create. And I've never been a Celtics fan my whole life, but I enjoy watching the Celtics. I enjoy watching Kyrie. I enjoy watching them last season. But I think this team is really built for regular season. When I watch what happened to them last season in the postseason, I felt like that if the Bulls could have stayed healthy and kept Rondo on the court, that they would have lost in the first round. Now, given the fact that they did make it to the Eastern Conference Final, they were no match for Cleveland. And I feel that that gap is still there, and they haven't closed it.
Well, it's
even though they've taken Kyrie away, I don't think that Kyrie will have that kind of impact against his old team come playoff time.
Well, look, you played 17 seasons, okay, which is a ridiculously long time.
Yeah.
And you, as we said, you're in the Hall of Fame. You were voted one of the top 50 players in the history of the NBA. Your numbers in your 15th season, when you were playing for Portland, you averaged 10.6 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, and I'm trying to find assists here. So, decent numbers. And then you look at
10 assists.
10 assists. Okay, well, we'll give you 10.
No, just kidding.
We'll give you close to that. But my point is, here it is, 6 assists. 6 assists. So 10.6.
Lonzo Ball.
5.2 boards and 6 assists. That's what makes the LeBron numbers so fascinating, right? I mean, I get it. You were a few years older because you were in college longer than LeBron. He went straight from high school. But the idea that someone could be putting up these type of numbers in his 15th season, when you look at his numbers, minutes 37, points per game 28.2, rebounds 8.2, assists 9 per game, field goal percentage 58%, and the three ball at 42%. It's crazy.
He's amazing. As you get
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Golic and Wingo on a Thursday morning. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We've started this sort of thing. Look, here's what happens when the young kids go out.
When they go out at night.
They give us content.
They come back with all kinds of stories.
Crazy stories.
The big talent meeting here in Bristol where all the on-air people flew in for a big meeting yesterday. And, of course, after which I went home.
Yes.
And my son, who is 28, went out with a bunch of the people. And they ended up karaokeing last night. So we had thrown it out there. Pick an ESPN personality, and what song do you think they should karaoke? And it seems most people were getting a lot of great responses.
At Golic and Wingo, yeah.
Yeah, at Golic and Wingo, at Wingos, or at ESPN Golic. Great responses. It's a shame the ones that keep coming in, though, about Timmy Kirkjian. I kind of feel bad.
They're playing the short card.
Yeah, they are. Little Drummer Boy.
Tiny Dancer. Short People by Randy Newman. That one also came in. This one might be one of the best ones I've seen yet. Dale writes in, Boomer. Hey, Boomer, what?
Yeah.
Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Oh, nice.
Right? That would be good. Although, knowing Boom, he's on concert on stage a lot with Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
So it might be hip to be square.
That's true.
Do you believe in love? And what's the theme from Back to the Future? Out of Time. Back in whatever that song was.
Yeah, whatever that song is.
I'll work on that one. That would be good.
But keep those coming in. There's some really good ones. And also, we're going to start to give away. A lot of people have been mentioning these coffee mugs that you see on our set, a lot of different styles. We're going to start giving them away, and basically it's how are you Golic?
Power of Love, that's what it was.
Power
of
Love. There you go. And basically it's how do you Golic and Wingo us? Oh. How do you watch us? How do you ingest us? Watching, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Digest, whatever. It is. I tell you what, one right out of the gate here, D-Mac says, hey, Golic, my wife just walked downstairs. She sent a picture of a one shot of me, just me and basically my face, came downstairs and said, he has beautiful hair.
You do, actually.
I like that. And he also said it's her birthday. Can you wish her happy birthday? Her name is Nisha. So, Nisha, happy birthday.
You do have, for middle-aged white guy hair, you do have hair to crave. I mean, the inventory is still very strong.
They're up there as far as possibly winning a mug. So, how are
the mug is good, by the way. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, it is.
And it's deceptively big.
Yeah.
You think, you can't fit like a giant whatever in there.
You can.
It's
bigger than you would think.
pour a lot of liquid in that thing.
Yeah.
So keep those coming at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. At Golic and Wingo, and let us know the songs that you think somebody here at ESPN would be great at karaokeing at.
What was the one for Adam Schefter?
Oh,
Call Me Maybe?
Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe.
That's great.
There it is. And you can, I've seen Adam do it with two phones at one time. He's got one on, he's texting here, that we call that hashtag Scheftering.
That's awesome.
So that's what Adam is doing in a big, big way. All right, lots to get to, and why don't we begin this hour with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, and we start off the top with the NBA, and Paul George scored only 12 points and shot only 3 of 14 from the floor, but it was enough as the Thunder won his first game back to Indiana thanks to a strong game from the supporting cast.
Yeah, he was booed. He was booed when he was introduced. He was booed every time he touched the ball,
that,
which
though,
is
right?
fine. He's the one who said, I'm leaving this team, so you may want to get rid of me, and they did. But, boy, I tell you, he and Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony, the three of them were 10 of 45. They shot just 22%. So it was Steven Adams who led the way, 23 points, 13 rebounds. So they got the win. That's the most important thing. George did play well defensively. We've had a lot of talk about Victor Oladipo, how well he's played offensively in the absence of Paul George. But when Paul George was guarding Oladipo was just 1 for 7 with 2 turnovers. So he did well on the defensive end.
Yeah, George, Russell Westbrook, and Carmelo just scored 34 points, which is very interesting. And the Oklahoma City reunion tour or coming back tour continues Saturday when they go to New York to play the Knicks, and obviously Carmelo Anthony will be a big part of that reunion game. We continue.
Off the top.
Houston, you do not have a problem. The Rockets used a 25-0 run, their largest since November 1997 per the Elias Sports Bureau, to win their 11th straight game since Chris Paul returned from injury.
And it's been what a game for them last night. Hornets, they outscored the Hornets by 39 points on three-pointers. They were 17 of 45, and the Hornets were just 4 of 21. What's been interesting is how this team has done with just one of those two on the court. Not together, but with just Harden on the court. They've been better offensively, efficiency-wise, and defensively, and net efficiency. And with Paul, just Chris Paul, the exact same thing. So, that what a great thing to have is that you can go on individually and still have this team perform better. Is pretty impressive. And you really have to start to wonder, with the way the Celtics have consistently been winning, and now what the Rockets are doing, are they legitimate threats to the two teams we're handing it to in the Cavaliers and Golden State to make it back for another final?
Right. Look, we're a long way from that. We get that. But an interesting takeaway from the start of this season is that it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion anymore, right? It doesn't feel like, hey, we'll just play this thing out, and for the fourth straight year, we'll have the Cavs and the Warriors meet in the finals. It feels differently. Now, look, a million things could change, and injuries are going to be a big part of that going forward. But you have the Celtics with Kyrie doing unbelievable things. Gordon Hayward now has the boot off. Is it possible that he might be able to come back toward the end of the season and into the playoffs and contribute in some way, shape, or form? And is it possible that Houston, with this mixture that they've found, could be not only good enough but big enough to maybe push around Golden State a little bit in the Western Conference, who've already had many more losses at this point of the year than they did a year ago? It just doesn't seem like we're rubber stamping anything to the finals anymore.
Which I think is good. And
I totally agree.
Yeah, and by the way, basketball already in a great place, for especially coming off of last year where we really knew the two teams that were going to be there, and they got there. So if there's a little bit of intrigue this year, I'm sure that can only help.
And again, long way to go, but it just feels like it's a different sort of set of circumstances early in the NBA season. Most people agree the NBA season really doesn't kick off until Christmas Day and beyond. We get that. It just seems like the temperature of the league is a little different than it has been the last couple of years. Right. Staying in the NBA.
Off the top.
Lonzo Ball is going to face LeBron James for the first time in his professional career this evening when the Lakers visit the Cavs. And although Lonzo struggled with his shot, Ball's averaging more rebounds, assists, and blocks per game than James did during his rookie season.
Yeah, the probably as far as rebounds per game, probably about a rebound and a half, assists per game, probably about 1 assist per game, but scoring we know is a little bit different. But Lonzo Ball has been, from vision of court and from the neck up as advertised coming into the NBA, and how players, his teammates certainly love him because he knows how he dishes the ball to him extremely well. And it brings up that interest, and we're a ways away from it next offseason when there's a lot of people, I'm not one of them, that think that LeBron's going to go to the Lakers, that the Lakers still need to do some movement there to where they can have two max salaries, one being the possibility of Paul George, one of the reasons he's not in Indiana anymore, and the other possibly being LeBron James. We'll see. But LeBron had a lot of nice things to say about Lonzo Ball in the beginning of his career, as my son brought up, and I think correctly so, that a lot of times that LeBron will say nice things about those that don't really pose a threat.
Haven't
to
got
him.
there yet.
Haven't got there because it was, as my son brought up, that he was really nice about talking about Steph Curry. All of a sudden, Steph Curry started with the MVP stuff, and maybe it wasn't the love wasn't thrown as much going out there.
Well, it's interesting, too, because, Lonzo's doing better in some categories than LeBron was in his rookie year. But what LeBron is doing this year, look, I think you expect it because of what he's done consistently over time. But the numbers he's putting up in his 15th year in the he's playing better year 15 than in any of the years at this point statistically than he won the MVP.
Yeah.
And look, we talked about this a little bit last week. Do you compare what Brady's doing at 40, although he's slipped up a little bit the last couple of games, to what LeBron is doing? It's an amazing thing. And I get it. It's not a 15-year career like if you went at least 1 year in college, one and done. He went straight from high school. But the wear and tear on your body, going up and down the floor, and as many minutes as LeBron plays, it's an impressive thing. And I think it goes underappreciated because, it's LeBron.
You expect it.
Exactly.
You expect that from LeBron. You expect it from Michael Jordan. You expect it from Tom Brady, from Aaron Rodgers to save the team and all that. The Cavs have won 15 out of the last 16, and in that time, James has averaged 27, 9, and 9, so it's been going pretty well.
15 years in. I mean, it's ridiculous. Right now, if you could name the MVP, who's your front runner? Would it be LeBron or would it be James Harden?
I think those are your front runners. Right. Well, Antetokounmpo isn't he still leading the league, right, in scoring? I believe he's so
last year they didn't have a single 50-yard play in Tampa. They were the only team
and that's
last
why
year,
they got Jackson,
and they got Deshaun Jackson. Well, they have one 50-yard play this year. And that would be to the tight end, O.J. Howard, the rookie out of Alabama. In fact, we looked it up yesterday on NFL Live. They only have one 50-yard play over the last 2 seasons, by far the lowest in the NFL. And those are the plays that change games. Deshaun Jackson has 38 50-yard plays from scrimmage. Forget his kick returns, which are ridiculous as well over his career. He has 38 in his career, 50-yard plays from scrimmage. And to put that in some sort of perspective, the Cleveland Browns, who have started the first team ever in NFL history to start back-to-back seasons at 0-13, have 4 50-yard plays over the last 2 years, and the Bucs have 1, and it was to a tight end. So it just, when you look at the weapons with Mike Evans, with O.J. Howard, with Cameron Brate, with Doug Martin, with Deshaun Jackson, it's not clicking. I don't know what the reason is, but it's not going anywhere near what I think the expectations were for that offense. Now, the Mariota thing is interesting because he's thrown a lot more interceptions this year.
Yeah, he has.
He's dealing with, look, he broke his leg last year. I get that. And now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. But the one thing that we thought about Marcus is that he'll protect the football. He'll use his legs to run and put the team in a good position to win. But you have an excellent point about the receivers. They've tried a bunch. They got the young receiver, Corey Davis.
Right.
And he's battled some injuries.
Yes, he has.
So maybe that's been a part of it. But for whatever reason, these two guys in their third year are nowhere near what Wentz and Goff are in their second year.
No, they're not. No, you can easily say that.
Yeah.
Easily it can point toward and I think the best story out of them all is Goff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Carson Wentz came in and did a representative job his rookie year, right?
Started out really well, then had a little hitch toward the back half of his rookie year.
But no more than Goff wasn't even active in the beginning of the season. Starts 7 games, doesn't win one of them. Everybody's ready to talking about what could you get for him in a trade, or he's on the the junk pile. And here you go with Sean McVay and what he's doing, where Goff is right now. That is the textbook definition of you do not draft a quarterback for his rookie year.
Right.
You draft him for a decade. So I'll still say that about Mariota and about Winston. We're in their third year. Are they behind what we think the curve should be because they went 1 and 2? There's going to be those expectations. Yes, they're behind that. But I'm certainly in no way near ready to say, well, those were busts.
No.
You got to give them some more time on that.
You're not ready to cut the cord, but you begin to start looking and trying to find out why these things aren't working, especially when the Bucs made the change at head coach because they believed Dirk Cutter, who was the offensive coordinator before he got the head coaching job, was going to be that guy that was going to work well with Jameis Winston. That also hasn't worked out.
See, and that's another thing, too. Sean McVay just started.
Coaching matters.
And Doug Peterson's going to be in Philly. Dirk Cutter going to be hanging there. That could be an iffy one in Tampa Bay. I think Malarkey in Tennessee.
Yeah, Malarkey.
Yeah, I think he'll be there. We don't hear that he's in any kind of trouble. I think of the 4 coaches we're talking about, forget the 2 for the Rams and the Eagles.
They're not going anywhere.
But Dirk Cutter maybe one that might be flirting a little bit.
Look, with a lot of veteran quarterbacks that may be out there, it's going to be an interesting offseason across the because there are always surprise firings. There's always a surprise move as well. And the NFL offseason, which starts sometime in March when the official league year begins, it's going to be very interesting this year more than any other.
Golic and Wingo presented by 1-800-Flowers. Don't stress over the holidays. 1-800-Flowers.com makes it easy to find great holiday presents for great prices, like up to 40% off best-selling bouquets, arrangements, and holiday goodies. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
All right, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. That was Sonny and Cher.
Yes, it was.
Singing I Got You, Babe.
Yes,
somebody thought that would be one of the songs we should sing in karaoke. And then I brought the question, well, who would be Sonny and who would be Cher? And you put that one out there.
I would be Sonny.
And I would be...
You'd be whatever I said you'd be.
That's exactly
This all
right.
started, about, 4 hours ago, a little less than 4 hours ago, when Mike was on the show. After First and Last, he came on our show and talked about, as I said, yesterday there was a big quote-unquote talent meeting here with over 500 on-air people at ESPN, a big meeting. Rarely does that happen. So Mike ended up, I did what my 55-year-old body would do. I went home, and he did what his single 28-year-old body would do. We went out with some people from ESPN.
As he should.
Yes. And they ended up doing some karaoke. And while we were talking about it during the show this morning, Mike and I actually did a little bit of singing as well. Do you have that up there?
I do. I think we all chimed in on this one, and this was one of your go-tos.
My go-to song.
Looking Glass, 1974, I believe.
It is a great song. I'm not going to begrudge you that. There you go.
She serves them whiskey and wine. The sailors say, Brandy,
please
you're a fine girl.
Such a fine girl.
What a good wife you would be.
Yeah.
Little Brandy and Looking Glass. Now, what I was proud of.
On a western bay, and it serves. Go ahead.
There you go. What I was proud of is my son, I think I've had a good influence on all my kids, knew that song to chime right in word for word.
Very, very important. Although I think that you get a little pass there because it was a big part of Guardians in the Galaxy, too.
It was. That is
big
true.
Opening scene. That brought it back for a lot of people.
And I could probably say I would not have been able to chime in on the songs he was singing last night.
Didn't even know those songs.
In karaoke. What has been funny in songs that you and I grew up on, my kids, and I'm sure yours, because they're about the same age, when Glee was the popular, so they thought Glee did those songs. No. There were people that actually did the songs before Glee did the songs.
That was a cover for somebody else.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
By the way, somebody else suggested this one for us. Do we have this one?
Bam-a-lam.
Oh, Black Betty. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's all I know of that
All right,
song.
we're horrible on that one.
Yeah, that's a bad one. But again, Cliff's got it.
Have you ever karaoke?
Oh, yeah.
You have? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Steve Miller, the Joker.
Oh, really?
One. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
The Gang, Space Cowboy,
yeah.
Maurice, The Pompatus of Love. These are all good things.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know you did. I wanted to make sure you got out there as well.
It's not something I would say I do on a regular basis.
How about Jay tweets in, Marty Smith, thank God I'm a country boy.
Absolutely.
Or Sweet Home Alabama.
Either one of those would work.
I completely agree. We did Jalen Jacoby, Every Rose.
Has its
Get
thorn?
Jalen Rose.
I got it.
Okay.
Also,
Jalen Rose and
I got
Rose.
It. Again, to sum it up, I got it.
Okay.
Sarah Spain was very popular
with
this.
Yes, it was.
Alan wrote in, she's a lady for Sarah Spain, to which Sarah responded, I prefer Brick House by the Commodores.
Okay.
And then, in parentheses, extra bonus information, my real karaoke go-to is Nothing But a G Thing.
Well, there you go.
So Sarah apparently has a lot of time on her hands.
Uh-huh. Barry tweets in for Stugatz.
Yeah.
George Thorogood, one bourbon, one scotch, one beer.
There you go. Well, that's another one. Bad to the Bone is also a great, because basically you don't really have to sing for Bad to the Bone. You just have to go, da-na-na-na-na.
That's exactly
and
right.
say the same thing in every single song and the same tone. Da-na-na-na-na. That's essentially it.
And then anybody that puts in Paul Feinbaum, I don't even care about the song.
I want to hear it.
Craig says Paul Feinbaum, Freebird, which just to see Paul Feinbaum up
if
at a microphone.
If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me?
It's so good.
The problem with Freebird is it's a 9-minute song.
Forever.
So
Forever.
You really have to be into the person singing it or into Freebird for that to work.
And then I think a great sing-along song that we hear in stadiums as well. Someone else said you and I should sing it. And it's a crowd favorite. As soon as you start singing it, everybody does. You know where I'm going? Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
I mean, that one, everybody just jumps in on that one. So that would be a good one to do because everybody else would help you with that as well.
All right, so we went through all of that today because we did.
Why not?
It's exactly right. Last Thursday night game.
Last
Thursday night game until the Hall of Fame game. Who you got? Colts or Broncos?
I think I'm going to go with Denver. Just at the end of the day, I mean, there's nothing to like about either one of these teams except occasionally the Denver defense. So I'll probably go with the Denver defense. So I'll probably go with Denver. Looking forward to the color rush. Colts are in blue and Broncos are in orange.
All right, I'll go with Denver, too. By the way, guests tomorrow for our Sixers All Access, including Dr. J.
Nice.
How about that? We're singing Golic.